Hello artists, welcome to our pond clay class. In front of you, you should have your slab of clay, a wax paper underneath, and then your paper plate underneath that. And that's just kind of like an easy way to carry our clay piece later on. And your clay piece is an air dry clay. It is not to be put in the oven, it just kind of naturally dries, and it should be completely dry in 24 to 48 hours. So again, you do not need to put your clay piece in the oven at all. Also, be sure to have a cup of water, paper towels, a large brush, a small brush, a colored pencil. It doesn't matter which color it is. We're going to use it as a carving tool later on. For your colors, be sure to have orange, light green, dark green, blue, pink, and then your black and white. Then your black and white. If you do not have all of these materials, no problem. You're welcome to push pause and come back whenever you're ready. So the first thing we're going to do with our slab of clay is pick it up, and we want to make a nice sphere shape, so a nice round shape. And all we do, almost like a baseball, we're going to go back and forth with our C-shaped hands. I'm so sorry, I always have clay on my hands, so all I need you to do is just kind of go back and forth like a baseball, make a nice round shape, get out all those air bubbles. And again, sorry about my clay hands or my clay dirty hands. Let's go ahead and get that clay piece into a nice round shape. Getting rid of all of these air bubbles. We want it to be nice and smooth. Going back and forth with a C, backward C-shaped hand. So, excuse me, C, backward C, just kind of going back and forth, getting it nice and round. Do this for another 10 seconds or so. Be sure everything is nice and round. Go back and forth. All right, once you are done with your getting your clay piece nice and round, what you're gonna do is you are going to split it up. You're gonna split it where it's 25% on the left side and about 75% on the right side. So you want a good amount larger on the right side. So I would say about here's in the middle. So a little bit over to your left, maybe use your pointy finger to make a little line. And then go ahead and take off that 25% chunk on the left side. And this will be used for our lily pads and our flowers later on. And we're gonna stick to starting out with this big chunk. So go ahead and put that 25% aside, grab that big chunk of clay, lay it on your wax paper, and with your palm, you wanna get it nice and round. So we're gonna smush it down like a pancake, not too thin, maybe half this width. So I'm gonna keep pushing with my palm, get it nice and flat, and get it nice and round, just kind of going out a little bit. Again, you don't want to go too thin. This is a good width, maybe a little bit thinner. You don't want it to be too delicate to where it's going to fall apart. Kind of using the roundness of my plate as a guide, going nice and round. Sorry about the shaky table. When I push down on it, the whole thing kind of shakes. Just again, using my palm, pushing out, getting my pond. This is the bottom of my pond. I want it to be nice and round. If you want, you can even use your colored pencil to kind of carve into it. So you're gonna push down a little bit and you're gonna use it to get a little bit more round. But that's if you feel like your shape is a little bit off. So again, if you wanted to, you can use your colored pencil. Just kind of carve around and make sure it's a nice round shape. But again, if you feel like you have a nice round shape by just pushing down onto your palm, onto your clay piece, you're just fine. once you have a nice round shape to build your pond on, you are gonna grab a piece of clay and you're gonna kind of go round and round like a coil, like a snake, a coil piece. You're gonna get it nice and round. So I'm gonna just take a good chunk of that 25%, maybe like half of it, and I'm gonna roll it up. And this piece is gonna be connected all the way around my pond, so you definitely wanna get it like thin enough, excuse me, to where it can go all the way around. And if it's breaking, you can always just kind of use your fingers to get it back together. You can even kind of use your hand to get it a little bit longer. Do definitely want to get it nice and round. I do want to make sure it's long enough to go all the way around. And if you want to, you can grab a little bit more of your 25% amount that you put to the side and just kind of keep adding to it. So if you wanted to kind of add a little bit and just kind of stretch, again, this will be connected in just a moment, but I want you to make sure that this piece is nice and round. It's going to be the lip of our pond. So again, I just kind of went back and forth, created this snake shape. You can add more with your other piece of clay that's off to the side. You don't need too much for the flowers or the lily pads. So if you just have like a little amount, even that much, you'll be fine later on. All right. So I want to make sure this fits pretty nicely. It doesn't have to be perfectly like the same amount of thickness all the way around. I'll put this coil piece, this kind of snake shape, to the side. What I'm going to do next, once I'm done with my kind of pancake shape and my snake shape, is I'm going to use my colored pencil and just kind of make lines like by the edge. You don't want to go too far the edge, just like a little slanted line coming towards the center. So I'm barely going to push. Don't push too hard to where it's carving through. I'm going to make these slanted lines coming in towards the center. So you're going to go all the way around, kind of slanted and towards the center. Don't push too hard towards carving through your pond shape or your pancake shape. Once you're done, you'll do the same thing to your coil piece or your snake shape. So I'm going to start at the top and just kind of go in there and make slanted lines. Again, you do not want to go all the way through. This is called scoring, where you're going to create these lines to kind of grasp onto the other side. So I have these two lines, and I'm going to actually flip it to where they'll start crossing one another. I don't want you to look at yours like this, but if you want, all I'm doing is going to kind of lay this one on top. But with that, I'm going to use my pointy finger, add some water all the way around, and I'm going to use this water as a glue as well to help the two grasp onto each other like a glue, or hold on to each other and stick. So lines going diagonal, I flipped it over, and then I'm going to push down, go all the way around. So you're just going to push down, make sure it's kind of off the edge. You don't want to come in too much towards the center. And I'm going to push down after I scored, which is making those lines, and slipped after I added the water. And I'm going to push down all the way around my pond shape. Make sure it's on there sturdy. And then I'm going to blend it, which means I'm just going to bring this down so it's nice and soft where the two meet. You don't want to see the line. You can use your hand kind of like on the outer edge so it doesn't really fall back when you're pushing down. So I'm going to use my hand, and you can even turn it where it's easier for you. Even do the top. But you do want this lip to come up. You want to get rid of the cracks where the two meet. Again, you can use your finger on the top as well. You can use water to help that kind of blend a little bit easier together, work together a little bit easier. Come up on the sides. It's kind of creating a little bit of a lip. And you can go around and pinch it a little bit. Make sure that side comes up all the way around. If you needed to, you can always grab a piece of clay too and just kind of use them as little fillers here and there. Again, you have this lip. You want to soften the top parts too. Make sure the sides are coming up. Always use your hands to kind of go around it and bring it in. And on the outside too, once you're kind of done with bringing the lip on the outside, you can always use your water and your finger to kind of smooth that out. And be sure to maybe even use your thumb to make sure that wall doesn't fall in or that lip doesn't fall in. You can get rid of the cracks on the outside too by adding water. Get nice and smooth all the way around. Okay, you just want to make sure this lip is up on your pond so the fish doesn't get out, the lily pads stay in there, just creating a nice little pond all the way around. And all we did was get that round piece or that kind of pancakey piece. We got that coil piece that's nice and round like a snake, nice long and round like a snake. Then we scored it and slipped it, then kind of blended it so the two met together a little bit better. And be sure again the sides are coming up by cupping the sides, making sure you have a lip, kind of pinching the sides as well. Gorgeous. And there is your pond shape right there. Again, be sure the top part's nice and smooth, the sides are nice and smooth. This area on the inside is nicely blended, so you kind of brought it in. Use your water to smooth things just a little bit at a time. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to make 2 lily pads. And the lily pads, excuse me, are a nice, easy shape. We're going to pretty much make 2 pancake shapes, one bigger than the other. And then we'll use our tool to cut out like a slice, almost like a slice of pizza, so we can get our lily pad on there. So let me show you how. I'm going to take just like a little chunk, a small chunk, maybe size of a nickel. I'm going to make it nice and round. I'm going to use my 2 hands and just kind of roll it in the center, just kind of going back and forth, getting it nice and round. Maybe scooting my pond a little bit over, pushing it down nice and flat like a pancake shape. I want to make sure I'm kind of going around so it's nice and round all the way. Pushing out a little bit so it spreads out. So you have a nice round shape. And then a very thin slice of pizza. So I go in and I carve and I come out. I carve. Or if you're familiar with Batman, not Batman, but Pac-Man, it kind of has that Pac-Man shape. So I'm gonna slice a piece of pizza. It's not as pointy as I want. So I'm gonna get it, come in a little bit more and carve that shape a little bit better. Oops, excuse me. And again, you can always use your finger to push it in a little bit more. Get the shape exactly how you want, a bit more flat. It's almost like a piece of pizza with a slice taken out. And then again, you can use your finger to get it nice and smooth all the way around, just a little bit with your pointy finger. You don't want to get it too wet because you want to make sure it's nice and mostly dry when we paint it. So a nice kind of Pac-Man shape. Just carved through it or made a kind of a triangle shape on the inside. And then I'm going to decide where I want this lily pad to be. And I think I want it to be maybe right over here on top where the 12 o'clock would be. And I'm going to score. I'm going to come down and to the left, maybe with 3 lines. I'm going to make sure I can cover that up with this, okay? And then maybe come down the other way, right down to the right. And then after I'm done scoring, so 3 lines this way, 3 lines the other way, add water. I'm gonna attach, so those 2 areas kind of hold on to each other like glue. They grasp onto each other. So I have that nice lily pad right there. Make sure it's nice and nicely on there, pushing down on it. You don't want it to really blend, you want it to be sitting on top, so we're not going to be pushing down onto the sides to where it's blending into the other. It's sitting on top of the pond. So we're not going to really do anything but score and slip. And I think I'm going to make one more lily pad, maybe over here. Take maybe a bigger piece. So last time I had a nickel size, maybe almost a quarter size, or maybe even a little bit more. I'm going to go round and round with it. My hand, so in my palm, I'll just kind of go round and round. And I'll find a nice area on my wax paper, and then push down on it. You can push down with your palm, with your fingers, just be really careful. This one's definitely gonna be bigger than the other one, so you definitely wanna create a bigger kind of pancake shape. Pushing out with it, get it nice and round. And then same thing, and I can carve it anywhere. Again, I want a pizza slice taken out. I'm gonna use it to carve in, and then a little bit over, and then to carve in as well. So you get that shape cut out. And then you can use your pointy finger and your water to kind of smooth it all the way around. Like so. Bring it in a little bit more. And then I think I will maybe have this one coming down this way. Let's see. Maybe I'll have that one kind of sitting there. But before I do, I'm gonna score. I'm gonna make like 3 or 4 lines coming down this way. And then the opposite. So I'm gonna have it coming down this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4 this way. Add water, and push down, but don't blend. You just want to sit on top of there and just kind of push down a little bit. And again, you can use your pointy finger and a little bit of water to smooth it out. Go all the way around. Like so. So cute. I have 2 lily pads on there. I'm going to create a flower here, and then I'll paint a fish here later. So I'm going to create a flower over here to the right. I have those 2 lily pads. Flower is super easy. I'm going to actually make the center of the flower first. So let me grab a super small piece and make a nice little round circle, just kind of like I've done before, but this is the center of my flour, just a tiny, tiny little piece. Just gonna roll it in my fingers, get it nice and round, like so. And then for my flour, I'm actually gonna start with that same round shape. So I made that little baby round piece. I'll put it off to the side. That'll be the center of my flour. Nice and round, like so. Move this a little bit over. I'm gonna use my palm to get it nice and pancakey shape, which is, I think, the shape we're using over and over again, is this nice flat piece. Don't make it too thin. A nice pancake piece. You've done the center. I am going to use my colored pencil. Be sure it's nice and clean where the point is. And I'm going to just make it simple flower shape. So I'm going to go round, almost like a rainbow shape, round for each petal, round, round. And you can have 4 or 5, however many petals you want. And then once I have that shape, I can actually go in there and push a little bit harder and carve all the way through. So the first time around, I just kind of laid it out. And now I'm just kind of going in there and carving a little bit harder. So I'm going all the way through. Ooh. Put all these extra pieces aside. Don't forget about the round center. I'll clean this up in just a moment. So you have your flower shape. Again, you can use your fingers to kind of smooth it out. And go in and kind of carve it up. Make sure all the little extra pieces are not on your colored pencil. Will make it hard to carve. Use your finger, your pointy finger, and some water to kind of smooth out the sides. So this is your flower shape right here. Again, use your finger to kind of clean up the sides. Pinch it to kind of flatten it out a little bit. Just a little bit. This looks like a star shape, but we'll actually fold it in just a little bit in just a moment. So once I have my shape nice and cleaned up, use water, maybe even pinch the sides down, get it nice and cute. You can just barely push down in the middle, so I'm just going to cave in a little bit in the center, like so. You can always use your finger and your water to kind of smooth out some of the areas. So just barely push in with your thumb. And I'm going to score and slip the center of my flower. So to the right, 3 or 4 lines, to the left, going down 3 or 4 times, adding water, and then just kind of pushing down in the center. This kind of creates a nice little basic flower shape. If yours has more or less petals, that's totally fine. Just be sure it kind of caves in a little bit. You're barely pushing down the center. So you have that nice flower shape. And again, you're going to score and slip over here to the right. I'm going to come down with 3 lines. Maybe go up with 3 lines. And I'm going to get these 2 wet and just have them meet. There you go. Get your flower exactly how you want it. We are going to add a leaf to it in just a moment. Be sure you have your nice flower piece, your nice round piece, score and slip those 2 together, and then score and slip the flower to your pond. For your leaf shape off of your flower, it's really easy. You just take a small amount, so just a mini amount, maybe again like a nickel or a dime size. I'm gonna roll it into a small coil or small snake shape, I'll pinch the bottom, kind of go on my way up, tear off any extra. So I went nice and round with it like a snake, started at the bottom, then kind of push harder. So I went out to the edge, tore off any extra, just kind of got that cute leaf shape. I'm gonna maybe go a little bit smaller with it so that there's enough space for everything else. And you can make 1 or 2 of these, however many you want. I might do 2. So I'm gonna score and slip this one, and I'll do another example here in a moment. Lines and lines, water, and push down, not too much, don't blend to where it loses itself in the pond. Kind of, I don't want it to be touching the lily pad, so I'll go a little bit higher up. Maybe I'll make a little mini one above it. So go super small. With the other one, get it nice and round. Go nice and round with your hands like a snake. It's gonna push down. The further you go up, don't make it too thin to where it's gonna fall apart. So the width is not too thin. Kind of tear off any excess. You can use your fingers to get that shape back. Get it nice and smooth. And scoring and slipping it. 1, 2, 3 down. 1, 2, 3 up. And I'm gonna have the pointy part. Have the pointy part kind of facing out. It's kind of over to the right there. You can push down a little bit, like so. Maybe have that petal go out. There you go. And again, we'll be painting the fish here, so you don't have to worry about carving the fish. The fish will be underwater, so we're gonna just paint it. Perfect. So you have your pond, your 2 lily pads, and your flower with the leaf. Take your time, but once you're done, you can use your big brush and the light blue and paint all the water, light blue. I'm gonna go up into the lip a little bit too. So all this is gonna be blue. If you get some on your lily pads, that's totally fine. We're gonna paint them green and different colors later on, so you'll be totally fine. I'm making sure all of it is nice and smooth. If you wanted to use your smaller brush for those smaller little areas, you totally can. But for now, I'm going to paint my water with my big brush and my light blue. You can go up onto the lip a little bit. Don't go past this right here. You want to keep the top part nice and smooth, so don't go past where the lip comes up. I'll use my small brush and my blue paint to kind of get into those tighter spots. And I do recommend 2 coats of light blue, so you paint it once, let it dry for a couple minutes, and go back and give it another coat. That'll make it a little bit more solid. You won't be able to see the clay as much. It just looks cleaner overall too. Again, be sure everything's nice and flat. Be sure you're covering up all the gray. Go back and do a second coat, I recommend. It's okay if you get some on your flowers or your lily pad. And I would probably truly go back for a third coat of blue, but for video's sake, I'm going to move on to my lily pads in just a moment. Alright, so once you are done with your blue water, again, I would do 2 coats, maybe even 3 coats. Be sure you're using your small brush to get into those smaller areas as well. You want to cover up all your water area with blue. The thing you're going to do next is you're going to wash and dry both of your brushes. And we're going to use our darker green to paint this larger lily pad. So I'm going to wash and dry my big brush and my small brush just so everything's nice and clean. I swirl it around. Big brush, that darker green paint. And again, I'm going to use it to paint this lily pad. Dark green, you can use your smaller brush to kind of get into the sides a little bit more. I would probably do 2, maybe even 3 coats of this green. So I paint it once, let it dry, and then go back and do a second or third coat. It usually takes a couple minutes for this paint to dry. Again, you can use your small brush to get into those smaller areas. So there's my green lily pad. Once you're done doing 2, maybe 3 coats, you're going to do the same thing to this mini one on the top, but you are going to use your limey green. Again, 2 or 3 coats. So dark green on the bottom, limey green on the top. You can use your small brush to kind of get into those smaller side areas if you like. Make sure your paint is nice and smooth. Go over to flatten it out. So you have those 2. For these 2 small leaves, what I do is I use my small brush and I go my dark green and my light green a little bit. I just kind of pat some off onto my paper towel, and they actually have both of the colors on my brush at the same time. Again, this is with my small brush. I want a little bit more limey green on there, and I kind of go into a little bit of both. Sorry, I grabbed too much dark green at the beginning, so I'm going to add a little bit of light green. So it's small brush and both the greens for your 2 leaves. I think now that my big lily pad's dry, I'm going to go back for another coat. Nice and smooth, get the sides. brush a little bit better and go into my limey green. Give it another coat. So there's that one. And then for my leaves, a little bit dark, dark, light. And then on there, give them another coat. I'm also going to paint the outside of my pond. All I'm going to do is take a little bit of limey green and just off to the side of your white container, just a little bit of white. You can pat some off onto your paper towel so you don't have too much on there. So lime green, the side of your white, and I'm just going to use my big brush. It's going to be my lightest green, so it's super, super light green. Big brush, limey green, a little bit of the white from the side of my container. I'm going to go in there and paint the side of my pond. And I don't want to see any gray between my water and the side, so I want to make sure I get any gray areas that might be peeking through. So you can kind of go over on the top of that lip, get it all nice and clean, and also the sides of your pond. Later on, if you wanted to, I hear if you put Elmer's glue on it, once it's like completely dry, maybe a day or two, that'll give it a nice shiny look. Just be very careful. You have some delicate pieces on here. But if you wanted to brush some Elmer's glue on here to make it a little bit shinier, you could. That and that. There's the nice round kind of edge, nice round all around. You can do another coat of this super light green. Once you're done, you can jump to your flower. Small brush. Make sure it's washed and dried well. I'm going to do a little bit of orange and find a nice clean area in my white, a little bit of white. Maybe just kind of wipe some off so you don't have too much on there. You want a really light orange for the center of your flower. Just going to go in there and paint it with this nice light orange in my small brush. Be very careful. You don't want to push too hard where that round piece comes off. So orange, find a nice clean area on your container. And then in a moment, I'll clean my brush again and paint my flower pink. So this is a super light orange in the center. Maybe 2 coats if you like. Don't push too hard where that round center comes off. And then clean your brush, and then you'll go into your pink. If you want your pink to be lighter, you can add a little bit of white to it. It's artist's choice, but pink. If you want it to be a darker flower, pink and white. Maybe wipe some off onto your paper towel where it's nice and clean. And then gently again, you're going to paint your flower with this nice pink color. Again, be sure not to push too hard. Kind of get into that space. You can get underneath it a little bit if you can. Everything's nice and smooth. Maybe add some more lighter pink on there, but it's up to you. The white does stick to the clay a little bit better than the pink, so if you wanted to add a little bit white, it'll kind of hold on to the clay a little bit better. The pink on its own is really thick, so it has a hard time staying on the clay sometimes. go. And once you are done, you can wash and dry your small brush. And then we're gonna make our fish shape. Make sure I have a nice clean piece of my paper towel, sorry. And if you're still working on this part, not a problem. But next step, super easy. I'm gonna clean my small brush. Maybe even bring it to a nice point. Sorry about my crazy art hands. I'm gonna go into my orange. And my fish is gonna be swimming up. So it's gonna be faced this way. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the tiniest little rainbow curve. So just like a little bit of a curve. I'm gonna come in, down on the left side and right side. So again, almost like a pizza slice again. I'm gonna paint that whole section orange. It's kind of curvy on top and pointy on the bottom. It has that pizza slice shape, but curvy on top. For the tail, it's almost like an upside down V with a little bit of a curve. So I'm gonna go a little bit this way and a little bit that way. So it kind of curves in just a little bit. And this will definitely need 2 or 3 coats of orange. So do it that way and that way. Make sure the face is kind of coming up. And there's 2 fins kind of coming back. It's the eyes will be up here, but a little bit further down. You're just gonna come out just a little bit that way. Just a little bit that way. So barely push on it. Gonna come out to the sides. I'm gonna clean my brush. Go in and kind of fix that up a little bit. Give it another coat. So this is kind of like the face area. It's curvy. Kind of curves out to the fins. And kind of fill it in a little bit better. Pointy down. I think this part got a little bit too thick, so I'm gonna pick up some of this part on the left side and the left side on the right side. Maybe make it a little bit more blue in just a moment. It's very hard when you go in there with tiny pieces, but this part kind of thins out, so it kind of comes in. So I just went back with some blue, thinned out. And truly any space that you want to kind of thin out, wait for the orange to dry a little bit. And then you can go in there, just kind of thin out the orange. In just a moment, all I'm going to do is paint the eyes black. And all that's going to be doing is taking the back of my small brush and making a black dot on the left side and on the right side. Kind of work on this blue a little bit more, touch it up. My orange might be still a little bit too wet, so I might give give it just a moment, but while that's kind of drying, I can use the back of my brush, dip it into the black paint, so it's the back of my small brush, and make sure to kind of blot it a little bit. Make a dot right here, to the side, and up here to the side. The eyes kind of look like it's pointing forward. I'm gonna clean up my fish a little bit more so you can kind of see the shape a little bit better. Make sure there's not too much orange on there. Be careful of the black eyes if you already did the eyes. Sometimes it kind of takes a moment for me to go back and forth with these fish shapes, but hopefully it's getting there. I'm gonna kind of clean up this area a little bit more. I think that's great. Here's my cute fish shape. We have the curviness comes to a nice point. Then you have that upside down V shape. You make black for the eyes. Once it dries, I might go back and add a little bit more of the light blue around it to kind of clean it up. But otherwise, there is your super cute fish in a pond painting class. Thank you so much, artists, for joining us. Hope you had a great time, and hopefully we'll see you soon.